Do you love your job? But more importantly, do you think you can do your job? I spoke with Erin Bradley. She is the host of the podcast Pursuing Freedom. She's a speaker trainer. She also was in mortgage for a while. And she had some really great advice for real estate professionals who she coaches now. And it really about finding your way and building a career that you don't need to take a vacation from. So enjoy the podcast. Erin, welcome to the Real Trending podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tracey. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so I want to start with your story. You've been pretty candid about your journey from burnout to building a freedom-driven business. So take us back to that turning point where you realized something had to change in your life, and then, to now, what are you doing with that?
Sure. So I don't know about you, Tracey, but I feel like there's a common theme for everyone who goes 100% commission, and we forego the steady paycheck and we take this leap of faith to go into self-employment or commission-based income. And in our mind, it's like freedom and flexibility. That's why we're doing it. We want to be our own boss. We want the freedom to work on our own time, et cetera. And then for me personally, I took that leap of faith on the mortgage side of the real estate business in 2007 and promptly fell flat on my face. So within a year, I was maxed out on tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. I had no financial safety net when I took the leap, no systems, honestly, no confidence. I hated feeling salesy. So most of the antiquated sales tactics that I was provided were just so dreadful for me that I didn't execute. And as a result, I mean, the timing was perfect too, 2008, but I found myself riding my bike to a client meeting because I didn't have enough money for gas. And then my credit card got declined for a $2 cup of coffee in front of the client. And that was the card I thought would work. So I was like, what am I going to do? I had to lie and say, that's so weird. I don't want to try another credit card in front of the client. He bought my coffee. I just remember being mortified. And I called my dad for advice. And he said, do you think you're going to be good at this someday, Erin? And I said, I think I could, even though I have no evidence to indicate that. And so he said, then you do whatever it takes. And so I opened another credit card, bought internet leads, whatever that means, in 2008. And then I hired my first coach, which is interesting because now as a coach, a lot of people say when I can afford you, and I couldn't afford not to. So I hired the coach, and ironically, I hired a coaching company for real estate agents. I was one of the first lenders that they coached. And so I was trained more like a real estate agent to build my business with my sphere than the way lenders are, which is to chase agents for leads, right? So I started doing the thing and it was fine. I said, I'm desperate. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I followed the plan for the next 3 years or so. And it was fine, but I still felt like something was missing. I felt a little bit out of alignment, like I was playing an imposter syndrome, and just trying to fit the mold. And finally in 2011, I read the book, The Go-Giver. And if the listeners have never read that, I highly recommend. It was life-changing for me. But the paradigm shift was that with the Go-Giver philosophy, the goal is to be of value above and beyond what you get paid to do. Like be of value even when your clients don't need your services. And I thought about it because the previous several years, I was doing all this push marketing to stay top of mind. But it was all about me. And I think that's why I felt so much resistance around it. It just felt like I was a go-getter, do the things to get the leads, to get the deals, to get the money, right? So it's always me solving a me problem. And when I read The Go-Giver, I thought, well, how can I actually be a resource to people when they don't need our services? So after the closing, what does it mean to actually be a service to others? And so I ended up developing a strategy founded in the principles of The Go-Giver. And it resulted in my business more than doubling in 2012. So I went from averaging 30 some transactions a year to doing nearly 80. And I had no foundation for that, right? No support in place, no great systems. And I found myself just drowning. I was pregnant with my second child. I was working 24/7. And I'll never forget, my second child was born in November. And I went to the end of year company party. And I maybe closed out the year around 20 million in volume. And I sat with my coworkers, some of whom were doing 30 million in volume, and their kids were a little older. And I just asked them, how are you doing this? I feel like I'm drowning over here. And they all admitted to working, 7 days a week till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I just remember coming home thinking, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I finally achieved, the quote unquote success. I'm earning more than I ever expected. And I'm grateful, but I'm a slave to my own success. And that's where the concept of pursuing freedom was born. because I thought I didn't feel free when my credit card was being declined.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel free now being, just surviving my own success. And where do I go from here? Like, why would I want to grow? So I tried to shrink my business at the time and the pipeline dried up and I ended up in credit card debt. I thought about quitting. And then luckily somebody was like, don't quit. You just need help. And so I started to invest in coaches and learned how to scale my business. And everything I was learning, I was teaching to agents. And I discovered along the way that the job title doesn't really define us. We all struggle with the same things, right? We all have the same insecurity and limiting beliefs and fear and worry and self-doubt. And then we have, we achieve some kind of financial success. And then we have the fear of losing what we've built, the fear of letting people down, it's just the human experience. And so, yeah, that was kind of the journey. And so luckily by scaling, I was able to start to work a lot less and see my business grow exponentially. And it just became my passion to help others do the same. So that's what led to the book, Pursuing Freedom, and the podcast. And that's really just become my life's work is helping others be more unapologetic and designing a business that aligns with you as you are today, not who you once were and what's important to you and where do you want to go from here. So that's kind of all of it in a nutshell, a long answer to a short question.
No, I love that. And, you talk about building a life you don't need a vacation from. So what does that look like in practice for a busy real estate professional?
Yeah, so it started with some decisions that felt crazy, maybe irresponsible, with fear along for the ride. And in the beginning, it was just that for many, many years, I made the excuse that I can't not work. Like, we're on vacation. I have to do this. I need to do this. I have to take that call. And as we started to develop better systems and scale, we were able to create a more balanced lifestyle inside of a very busy organization. So with a small but mighty team, we were able to create space to enjoy our lives and our present moments while also having a thriving business. And so when we bought a little condo in a ski town in Colorado, we were living in Denver at the time. And we were up here every weekend in 2015 into 16. Our oldest was in kindergarten. And I remember thinking, man, I wish we could live there full time. So maybe we'll move there when the kids grow up. And due to a series of losses in my life, starting at a very young age, I've always had the motto, if not now, when? Not as some lighthearted cliche, but like a true fundamental principle in my life is that we don't know how long we've got. And if we feel called to something, it's better to say yes to life now. And so we went through all the reasons why we can't move to the mountains. And one of them, of course, was my business in Denver. And we did it anyway. And when I got here, there was a bumper sticker. It's kind of obnoxious, but it's funny. And it says, my life is better than your vacation. And so I started to adopt this idea of like, what if you could build a life you don't need a vacation from? And so I just started designing my business in such a way, like when we moved here, our oldest was going into first grade. And what's crazy about this town is they don't have school on Fridays ever. And so in a ski town, they ski on Fridays. So I started not working Fridays. And in order to do that, I had to have good systems and support in my business to make that possible. And then, 2020 rolled around. We did a 6-month RV road trip and homeschooled our kids. I thought that would put me out of business for sure. I'm like, people are not going to refer me because they're going to see me on the road. And again, it was like, well, if not now, when? Our kids were in second and fifth grade. So we did it. And our business had a 50% increase. And when we moved to the ski town, and I thought that could hurt my business, we doubled our business because we opened an office here. And so the point of this is that it's been a journey of making decisions that feel aligned with the life we want to live, in spite of fear of what others are going to think and fear of what could go wrong. And then learning that our fear is nothing more than imaginary thoughts. And most of the time, those risky decisions become our smartest decisions, and life just keeps getting better. And so, yeah, it just became kind of a conversation with everyone I know is like, you say, I wish I could, but whatever follows but is your fear. And so why not? And it's funny, I have on my vision board, it says, why not is a slogan for an interesting life. So yeah, it's just all stemmed from that.
So, but fear could be paralyzing. So give me some specific strategies that you recommend for real estate agents to kind of overcome that fear and make those decisions.
Yeah. So this is the deep work. Okay. I just had a conversation this morning with a gal who is a real estate agent. She has been for almost 20 years. She consistently earns 150,000 to 200,000 a year, and she's terrified of hiring help. And so there's a lot of fears there. Like, what's it going to cost me? What if things go wrong? All this other stuff. And so we just break it down to say, to reframe that, to be reminded that the fear should be, what if the clients that you're losing touch with because you're so busy doing customer service activities and converting leads and getting people to closing in a tricky market, what if those past clients of yours haven't heard from you in 3 years? That's pretty scary too, right? What if you're running on fumes and you're exhausted and scattered and distracted and preoccupied, and you're handling the biggest financial decision of somebody's life, possibly? That's pretty scary. So there's a lot of things about staying small and settling for less instead of saying yes to growth and expansion in spite of fear, that to me is worse off than making decisions with fear along for the ride. So there's activities that we can do. I mean, first and foremost, we're always on the leading edge of expansion, which means we're always stepping into unfamiliar territory, whatever that looks like for you. And you have been your whole life. So the first thing we can do is acknowledge that somewhere between where you are today and your 20-year-old self, you've probably exceeded the expectations of him or her in some capacity. That could be you've earned more than she or he thought you'd ever earn. Maybe you've had kids or grandkids. Maybe you've run a marathon or climbed a mountain, but you've done something your younger self didn't know was possible, which means we never have any clue what our true potential is. We've probably only scratched the surface. So there's evidence in our lives to remind us that we've been scared before, we had no clue, and yet we've proven ourselves wrong. So that can lead us to be more curious about the unknown instead of needing to have it all figured out. Like Martin Luther King said, you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. And that's really what it boils down to, is that our analytical brains are going to say, I need to have it all figured out. I need to connect all the dots and know how it's going to work out before I'm willing to say yes to that thing that my heart feels called to. And I like to help people say, you've already done this so many times in your past. And the other piece of it is write it down. Like, I can't do that because whatever follows because is fear. So you're essentially defending the limitation of your mind, and your mind's job is to protect you. So your mind will never like expansion. So if you say, yes, I'd like to double my business, and then your fear is that's too much sacrifice, that's too much, like, your brain is going to try to keep you playing small. And that to me feels so much scarier than building a life you don't need a vacation from.
Yeah, absolutely. And and like you said, mortgage and real estate pros they're great at hustling, right? They're great at hustling, but they're less skilled at like planning for growth. So, how do you teach agents to expect success and actually prepare for it? And I'm looking for some real specific strategies that they could take away from the podcast, and maybe something specific that they can do.
Sure. So one activity we do is we make a list of all the things that we've all been to sales training. So I don't think there's any shortage of what's the playbook, right? Make this many calls per day or per week, how many handwritten notes, Popeyes, all the client events, follow up, follow through. So first thing we do is we make a list of everything that looks like an ideal marketing plan for the year. Second thing is be honest about how consistent are you right now in the execution of all those things. Most will admit they're maybe 20% consistent, which means that 80% of your clients are getting nothing from you. And we actually did an experiment in 2019 that resulted in us taking our business from 3 closings a month to 17 closings a month in less than 6 months. And what was terrifying is that 50% of our repeat clients were working with a different realtor. So the threat to your business of being inconsistent with your lead generating activities is terrifying. So the first thing we look at is, where are you the bottleneck in your business? Because your job is to develop the relationships, love the people, build the trust, convert the leads, get them under contract, get them from contract to closing, theoretically follow up, follow through. So the first thing we do is we use it sounds silly, but the visual of a dentist office. Like when your dentist calls you to remind you of your next checkup or to schedule your next appointment, it's not your dentist that calls you, right? It's the front desk person. So think like Katie at the front desk at Dr. Carter's office calls you and reminds you to schedule your next appointment. Katie's invaluable to the financial success of that business operation, right? But Katie doesn't need a dental degree to be effective in supporting the growth of the business, right? So we don't judge the dentist for not making that call themselves. And then the second thing is you get to the office and the dentist isn't the person who brings you to your chair and cleans your teeth and flosses and takes x-rays, right? It's the hygienist. And again, we appreciate the level of service that we get from each of the individuals, and they all contribute to the growth of the organization. And if we were to walk into a dental office where you have just the dentist, and the dentist is running back and forth between answering the phone, doing the billing, checking you in, flossing your teeth, doing x-rays, operating on you, and there's 10 people in there, and the one person is running around doing all the things like a chicken with her head cut off, would you trust that dental you'd be terrified, right?
No.
Like that would feel absolutely it was just chaos, right? And so the first thing is to acknowledge, if your clients could see behind the curtain of how you're running your real estate business, are you running it like a business? Or are you the chicken with the head cut off, winging it every day, and then wondering why your business is inconsistent? Because the truth is that the inconsistency in your volume, in your leads, and in your income is nothing more than the inconsistency in your execution, which is the byproduct of you wearing too many hats. So one of the things we do is we just start with offloading small but mighty tasks that drive revenue to the business so that you can remove yourself as the bottleneck. And a lot of that has to do with overcoming the fear. But we just had this conversation this morning with somebody where in her best month in June, she had 7 closings, a real estate agent. So she made about $40,000 that month. So we did the math and figured out that her hourly rate is like $250 an hour if she's only working 40 hours a week, which in fact, she was probably working 60 to 80 hours a week, right? But let's just call it $250 an hour. And then we went through all the things that she does: scheduling inspections, checking in with the title rep, calling the lender to make sure figures that are at title, coordinating the repairs for the inspection items, like on and on it goes, right? All things that you could pay somebody $25 an hour to do. And so we did the math on that. Every hour you spend doing something that someone else could do for $25 an hour that doesn't require you to them to have a real estate license or a dental degree, right, is costing you $225 an hour. So it's costing you almost $500,000 a year to run your business like chaos. And also, I mean, let's just highlight the worst part about this is that it's not just real estate agents and mortgage lenders, it's all solopreneurs. But if a real estate agent is convincing themselves that it's fine and it's better for me to not run my business like a business and enlist the help to build the systems so that I can create consistency in customer experience, consistency in business development, all the things, right? And that it's better off for me to just wing it every day, be exhausted and preoccupied and distracted while handling someone's biggest financial decision. That is an illusion that we're doing our best. We say, it's fine, I can do it. I know you can do it, but if it's energy draining or if you're doing too much, you're actually diluting the level of service that you can bring. Your clients want you to be rested, energized, focused, and enthused when handling the highest level tasks in their experience with you. So a lot of it is just reverse engineering the psychology of what it looks like to run your business like a true professional versus you being the passenger on a speeding train that's going off the rails half the time.
I mean, that makes so much sense. And I think that deep down, people understand that or know that, but you're right. It's the fear that gets in the way of actually making any decisions that would help, right?
Yeah. And the fact is that it's lonely. I mean, most of us run our businesses alone and we navigate our fears alone. And we feel like we're the only person struggling, and we're not. Like none of us are alone in the human experience, but it feels very lonely. So a big piece of this is to get in the room with somebody that reminds you of the future you want for yourself, because you can borrow the confidence you see in somebody else and you can borrow the confidence they see in you until your own confidence expands. But to have fear doesn't need to be judged or criticized. It's just part of being human.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing we need to do is be a witness to it, recognize it's been there all along. It's been trying to keep us playing small. And that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to play small. I'm here to live an awesome life. And we all are. And so sometimes it just means like, be with somebody who looks at you and says, you've got this. Don't be ridiculous. You know, if you're making $150,000 a year already, then you've already got proof of concept. People love you. They trust you. You give great customer service. We just need to help you graduate from being the technician in your business to being the true business owner, the CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really emphasize that authenticity in your business. So what does that look like? You know, especially when the industry focuses so much on production and numbers and, you know, marketing, what does that authenticity really look like?
Some people, I don't know if this answer lands with everybody, but what I have found is that joy is the compass. Okay. The more fun we're having, the more money we're making. And there's not a single person listening that's been in business long enough that can't relate to at least one time, if not every time, you try to go on vacation, you try to take a day off, and the phone rings, and it's so annoying. And it's like, why does that always happen? You know, there's a joke in the real estate space, like, you want your business to pick up, go on vacation. It's like, well, what is happening here? Well, the truth of the matter is, when you're excited, when you're trying your darndest to not think about work, when you're hanging out with your loved ones, your true authentic self, when your best friend is going through something awesome and you're celebrating, or they're going through something awful and you're there with them and you are problem solving, you're providing solutions, you're making connections to resources, you're just being the version of you that everyone loves. That's your authentic self. So the idea is to build a business around that. And what I see most often is that that's your brightest light. I mean, when your light is ignited, when you're having a good time, when you're fully engaged with the experience of living, you are like a lighthouse in the storm, and the ships seem to come to port. So we call it curating vacation energy. And what typically happens is all that is great and fine, and it doesn't feel like a business strategy. But then Monday morning rolls around, you put on your work hat, and it weighs 400 pounds, and it just extinguishes the light. What should I do today? What could I do today? I'm supposed to make calls. I just need to do this. I have to do this. And I just did a post about this morning. It's like, does that sound fun? Does that sound like you're building a business that you love? Or does that sound like heaviness, resistance, dread, procrastination, like muscling through the activity? Because if that's the energy you bring into your work, right? Is this like, I just need to, I just have to, I need to call this person because they said I should do that so I can get leads. Like, that's a you problem. To build a business of authenticity means to just start by recognizing that's not fun. And you're operating from, I have a problem to solve, and now I have insecurity about what people are going to think of me if I call them. And so then I don't call, and then I beat myself up, and that creates a whole vicious cycle. Instead, ask yourself, if I needed nothing, if all my needs were met, how would I want to feel today? Who am I when I'm not thinking about work, when I'm hanging around my loved ones? Who would I want to be of value to? Who would I want to serve? And then how will I know? So the difference is, yes, we clean up the CRM, we organize the database, but instead of organize the database around your personal agenda of what you think you can get out of it, organize your database around the people that bring the most joy to your life, that are the most energizing. So there should be zero resistance on being curious around how to be of value to them. And let's just assume they don't need to buy or sell right now, because that is the one thing that's creating the resistance, especially in this market. People think, I need to call my past clients, but I don't want to be seen as salesy, and they don't need to buy right now because they bought in 2021 and they have a rate of 2%, whatever, right? And I always say that's a you problem. Life is happening all the time. So what we do is we replace the insecurity with curiosity, and we try to get to the bottom of the 3 a.m. moment. So if you're my past client, Tracey, and you woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning last night and you couldn't fall back asleep, I know with 100% certainty, the one thing you were not thinking about was my pipeline. You were not thinking about my kids' college tuition or my bills. You were thinking about whatever you're worried about, whatever you're working on, or whatever you're excited about. So my job is to get to the bottom of that. And if I can find a way to be a resource to you, which means introducing you to service providers that can help you, sending a little gift in the mail, sending a handwritten note that lets you know, I see you, I love you, I appreciate you. That's what authenticity looks like and feels like. It's you, your true self, with no agenda. And what happens is the impact you have on people's hearts and minds is what creates the ripple effect. Because it's those conversations that show up in the conversations you can't see at their dinner table, at their office, on the sidelines of their kids' games. And that's where you start to attract the business out of the blue. It's by being unfiltered, being radiant, being fun, being yourself. Like, it's so easy to dim the light with all the should and the have to. And I get it. We have responsibilities. But if we're going to be self-employed and this is not the easy route, why are we not making it fun? Why are we not loving people without a filter? That's the path to being a magnet. And I see it all day, every day. There are people like one of my coaching students today, she has 10 under contract for September. And there's certainly some that haven't had a closing in 3 months. So what's the difference? Yeah. The difference is the energy. It's reverse engineering the way you show up in your community without your personal agenda being the filter through which you see everything.
I mean, that makes so much sense. We only have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to kind of do a lightning round of questions. So what fuels your workday? Podcast, playlist, silence? What's the one thing that really fuels you every day?
Silence and nature, for sure.
A daily habit or ritual that keeps you grounded?
Silence and nature. same answer.
Do you do something in nature, like a walk or a hike?
Well, I live in a ski town, so it depends on the season, right? So I'm either cross country skiing, or I'm downhill skiing, or I'm uphill skiing, like hiking, mountain biking, walking, running. I mean, literally anything, paddleboarding. You just get me outside and I'm in my happy place. I find that the most clarity and creativity comes when I silence the noise. And it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done, because I'm a go person who wakes up like, what do I have to do today? And I understand that if I go right into action from an anxious energy state, it falls flat. That's the should and the have to. Instead, I force the quiet and then receive the inspiration to act. And from there, inspired action opens doors all day, every day.
I feel that. I mean, when I go running in the morning, I go early. It's dark out still. And I don't listen to music. I don't listen to podcasts. I just listen to the birds and, what's going on around me. And it fuels you. So, I mean, not everybody, I assume, but I can totally understand that. So yeah. Last question, best piece of advice you've ever received in your career?
Honestly, do you believe you're going to be good at this? Because if you don't believe it, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Yeah. And if you believe you're going to be good at it, then keep going. Don't quit, because your success is inevitable.
That's great. Erin, thanks so much for joining the podcast. There's a heap of knowledge laid on us right now. So I really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracey.